Hello, my name is Marc. We're gonna talk. Sorry.
Love the energy.
Hi, I'm Catch Calamity, and I've got a show for you. At the top, you were greeted by local musician and artist Marc Daniel, or as some know him, King Squali. We sat for a chat related to his process and the release of his most recent musical work, Dry Eyes. A wonderful and refreshing project that gives the vibrancy of a Mort Garson's Plantasia with roots in rap and poetry set against the Chicago landscape. In many of the videos that he has available on YouTube, you can see beautiful settings like the Garfield Park Conservatory and even some really fantastic hotels here in Chicago. We jump in during our conversation just after I asked what success as an artist looks like.
Paying for the music videos, I'm paying for the photo shoots. I'm out here investing in ads. I'm creating content. I'm doing a lot. I'm buying beats. I'm buying licenses. I'm doing these different investing in these different ways. So if I can have my art support itself in the sense that I make enough money that it does all that on its own, I can pay for all that stuff just from like what I generate in revenue from my craft. That's a great starting point. But beyond that, to be able to be fully independent and self-sufficient from my craft, in the sense that I pay my bills with this, I make a living from this, my sole purpose and goal as a career is to pursue this passion and these ideas. I think that would be like the main form of success, I would say.
Now, you are in a unique position of being born in the city of Chicago. Very lucky draw, I think, as someone who is very proud to be from Chicago. Do you feel Chicago has influenced your process, your journey in any capacity?
100% for sure. Yes, 100%. Um, the main thing I would say is, excuse me, community. As an artist, there is, no matter what the medium is, if you want this to be your career and you want to make it like your what supports you, you need resources, you need friends, you need a support system, you need these different like things, in a big city like Chicago, it's very easy to find people that are similar and interested in the same things. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's some kind of art or craft or skill set. There's so many people out here like pursuing passions, pursuing dreams, and if you can get out here and just mingle and make friends and make connections, it puts you so far ahead of the majority of the other people, because it puts you in a place where you have resources, you have people to lean on, you could find people to help build a team, a support system, and in turn, it's the fulfilling prophecy where like the more you go out there, the more you meet people, the more you're recognized for your craft. You start to introduce people to you as an artist. People understand you in context of your skill set and your creativity. You know what I'm saying? I think that's important. I think if you're just, I think another thing too. Is, this is totally like maybe off the out of left field here, but I feel like a certain level of like dopeness, if that makes any sense, man. Like, I feel like being in a city, there's a certain level of like realness. There's a certain feel to the people. There's a certain feel to like the environment, how people interact with each other, and I think that all influences it. Culture, style, these different things of and then it's such a great place to absorb art. You know what I'm saying? Like like so many different mediums as well. That it's so easy to get inspired and be inspired, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
There's a level of influence already here. There's a little, factor of where in a media space where coolness is defined by something. So you get to inherit that, you get to ride that wave, or you get to redefine it. That's a unique circumstance to be part of.
Or participate in it.
Yeah. If you think of how much harder it is to influence when there's fewer people around, it's harder to create art because you got to convince even fewer people that you're great.
Yeah.
It's great to get word of mouth going when there's lots of people to spread the word of mouth,
For sure. I think that there's this like weird thing that happens when people know you like as a friend, where they won't see you as an artist. Weird as that may sound. So I think being able to put yourself into a pool of people that like respect that and see you in that light, or, what I'm saying, where you can introduce yourself in that light makes a big difference.
So this is where I'll take the advantage and introduce the connection we have. Full disclosure, we're family.
Hell yeah.
Cool family. That's why we're both creatives. We come from an art-based family on every side, I think. Many of our cousins and family members play instruments of some capacity or have just genuinely gorgeous voices.
Drawers.
Yeah.
Just interesting, even creative personalities, as weird as that may sound, bright, interesting, quirky family members that have all inspired us. Like, that was just inspired us like crazy. I think I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Go on.
Just going off this line of thought, I feel like it reminds me of, when we were kids, we used to go to Suzuki.
Yes.
And one thing that stands out like crazy to me now that I'm older is not necessarily even the guitar. Like, I used to do guitar, used to do violin. That was cool. But the thing that sticks out to me now that I'm older are the rhythm and the rhythm classes. Do you remember that? Where we used to go to the other building?
Orff classes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So for those unfamiliar with Suzuki, it is a Japanese musical philosophy. I always forget his first name because I always want to say Ichiro Suzuki, but I believe that's the baseball player.
Beyond me, dude.
I always mix up the baseball player and the philosopher, but basically it is very similar to Montessori education, where sound is really important to the development of the child. Meaning, if you can hear the differences of sounds, you can translate those sounds more effectively. In Montessori, that means you can read better. You can speak more languages, so they are very big on like early language classes. So little kids learning foreign languages early because you can hear those languages easier. Suzuki takes a similar philosophy in, if you teach children pitch, if you can teach children tone early, basically to hear music and translate it from the sound straight onto the instrument, then you can play more instruments and you can play more effectively. So it was big on sound turns into line reading. I don't know if that worked out for you the way it worked out for me. I'm really good by ear, but not necessarily read music super effectively.
So I wouldn't even be able to play a lick of guitar if I even tried at the moment, okay? So, and I did that for like 6-7 years or something as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the thing that sticks out to me from all of that is not necessarily the skill set of being able to play this instrument, but like this idea of rhythm and beat, the idea of this idea that goes beyond like the technicality of like playing an instrument, but more or less like understanding rhythm like on a deeper level. You know what I'm saying? As somebody that raps and beat and measure and tone and these things, you know what I'm saying? So somebody that raps, like, this is like something I still practice to this day, and it's like something that was like I feel like that was fundamental to like my skill set, and also I think maybe even like my philosophy, it's something I never even really thought about much of until we started talking about this, which is crazy. But yeah, I think that's that's something that really sticks out to me, and I think probably helps shape a lot of like what I'm doing and where I'm at with certain things. Probably even on a subconscious level. I think we just tapped into something, bro.
Well, I think it's, something that is known but isn't necessarily supported everywhere, which is music education early helps later in life. Whether it turns into a hobby that becomes an outlet for the average person, whether somebody takes that art and translates that into a career path, that's also, just a skill set as a person that it's nice to have. I know I use my music education not in the capacity of music anymore, but in the sense of whenever I am out in the space, I am actively listening to music, I'm actively thinking about music. Rap, hip hop, very wonderful. I think last 5 years have been a gift musically, I think, for most places. There's an argument to say that like as society stress raises, art gets better. People are looking for that outlet. But it's been a really wonderful musical time, and I think that reflects on the independent level. We are certainly seeing more musicians like yourself starting to get that footing, that pacing, who have been in development for a time and saying, actually, this is a really great time for me to put some stuff out. People are definitely looking for things to listen to. So with that in mind, do you think as an artist that there are downfalls to being independent in Chicago versus being independent somewhere else?
Well, I would imagine possibly, again, I think it comes down to like those resources and those connections in the community. I think that's so fundamental to maybe not necessarily like the skill set side of things, but like it won't like community doesn't make you like a better rapper, right? But it if you are decent, if you've been honing in on your skills and you're at a certain level, like putting yourself out there is just gonna it's gonna put you on a wave, and you can like ride these different waves, you know what I'm saying, and start to break out and show people. But I would imagine if you're, it's probably way harder for, who knows, like that kid in like Oklahoma or something, you know what I'm saying, like that maybe where the music scene isn't popping, and but the reality too though, I think the reality too though is like we do live in a digital era, and all of these things like they play a role, you know what I'm saying? So like you can attack it from like the local scene and be big in your local community, but that might not necessarily be good or like or like help you be seen on a larger global scale, or maybe like get your music seen in a bigger pool of people, right? Like if you and this is again kind of going back to what I was saying about like sometimes your friends don't always see you as an artist. So like just because I have my community and they're supporting me as my friend doesn't necessarily they're gonna go listen to the song and share it and go tell everybody that, hey, my friend is an artist,
Mm-hmm.
They'll just be like, oh, that's my boy, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he does music, they probably won't get into the details, but you know what I'm saying, when so yeah, I would definitely imagine, but I think like what makes an artist like that's gonna like no matter where they are is being able to realize like you have to attack these different angles. You have to try to do the local scene. You have to get yourself online. You have to widen the audience in which you're showing yourself. And what I'm realizing is like these different angles do different things for you, right? So maybe that community like angle isn't a bunch of people that's going to go stream your music, but maybe they'll be the people that are like more likely to engage with you online. Like they'll see you post something and they'll go comment, stranger out in Poland probably see your video and not even care to think twice, but maybe they hear your song and like are willing to click it, you know. So there's these different, you know, or maybe if you throw your song out there online, you're into a pool of millions of people, a couple thousand might actually like it instead of just this small audience of a couple hundred people in your local scene. So I think like again like as an independent artist, understanding like how both of these like things like play a role and how you have to figure out a balancing act of both. I think that's important.
So you were talking about how the rhythm classes really influenced you. How do you incorporate rhythm in your music? Is that your starting point? How do you develop your songs?
That's actually a really interesting question. So we're gonna get into some really like interesting esoteric like topics, and some of this stuff is like highly debated. So when I was learning how to rap and I first started, I was writing, right? I would listen to like play beats, and I would sit there and I would write. I'd be on the bus, at the crib, all these different things, and then I would also practice freestyling. Like I would put music on in the shower, and I would like just like sit in the shower and try freestyling, or like I'll be with my friends, you know, we'd be smoking a bunch of weed or something, and smoking some cannabis, and we would maybe start rapping and stuff and freestyling. But the main skill set that I was trying to develop, especially in the early stages, was writing, understanding like the power of like the pen, trying to be more poetic in my approach, understanding the things like even like things like rhyme schemes and stanzas and you know these different poetic like tools for poetry and or music. But what I started realizing, or at least from myself and a lot of like the artists I would see around me, they were all doing the same thing. They were trying to learn how to be better writers. And I think that's fundamental to like my skill set and where I am now. But I think there are limitations on writing, and because the reality is like when working on music, right? It's not about. I could put my ego in it and I could say, okay, like let me make the most poetic, deep thing possible. Let me show people how good of a poet I am and how deep and I could be. But at the surface, the reality is nobody wants to hear you try to be deep and poetic. Most of the time it comes off really corny. People want, it's music. It should feel good, first of all, right? Like people are just going to be like entranced by your poetry. They're going to be entranced by the rhythm and the sound and the music. And then if you can get a message behind that, now we're talking, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like it's the song, it's the rhythm and the feeling and the melodies that take the lead when making music. So now, and for the last, I don't know, 7-8 years, I don't write at all. I don't write a lick. I haven't picked up a pen in fucking, excuse me, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, I apologize. I haven't picked up a pen in years. I turn the mic on and I go, you know, and what I've realized is there's no, when I'm writing, all I'm really doing is adding an extra step, right? Like, because if you think about it, think about this. What is the tool of the pen and the pad and the tool of the microphone and the recorder objectively do the same job, do they not?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could either write it down first and then try to record it, but the reality of that sequence of events is that I wrote something and now I'm trying to perform it on the mic.
There's action.
There's a certain tone I'm gonna use, a certain projection that there's just, you know what I'm saying, that these are these concepts that like that you're gonna put behind your poetry and trying to get the message across, the deep and poetic whatever thing that you're trying to put into there. You're basically getting in the way. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. So what I say is, you're already gonna think of the ideas. You're already gonna think of the words that are the words are gonna come out, or are gonna be the words that are gonna come out, right? Whether you write them down or you record them first. That's up to you. But I think when you turn the mic on and you just go straight from your mind to the recorder, to the mic, you get something that's way more natural. You'll find yourself talking and rapping in tones that you would never perform at if you had it written. It's more natural. You're not trying so hard. And what ends up happening, and what makes music good, is you end up catching moments. You know what I'm saying? Live. That you can never try to recreate if you wrote it down. You know, you catch the moment live. Like if I said something like, and I was just like in the studio and I'm like, and I said some crazy thing like in a certain way, and I was like, whoa, that actually sounded, the way I said that right there sounded really cool, and I recorded it. Now I could just go off of that. I don't, and like that's something that like you will never be able to recreate. You know what I'm saying? With you, so you know, but at the same time, writing is fundamental to the skill set of like being, of making music. And I think like I think it's important to understand like the power of both, and like why you probably should learn to write before you gotta learn to walk before you fly, like run kind of a thing. But I think if you could set yourself up in that way, I think you personally, it ends up making better music, or at least that's how I approach it, and that's how I make my music. You know, and I think that yeah, I also think that there's something really interesting about the chance of, and the subconscious, and the things that come out that you end up capturing sometimes too. You know, things that are like not like
what some people might call freestyling.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Ad-libbing.
Like you'll be surprised with the things that come out sometimes. You'll be like, damn, I said that? You're like, or like there's sometimes I'll make songs and I'll go back and I'll be like, damn, bro, like I didn't realize what I was saying at the moment. And like I'm listening to it all in context now that I have the song, and I'm like, holy, like it wasn't even a conscious effort to go in this direction or say these things or try to make this song about this topic. It happened naturally, you know what I'm saying? I caught that. I think that's like a core.
I think that's the fundamentals of art right there. I think that's like the pursuit of the artist, is like that moment, you know, you get your one take, right? People call it the 15-minute of fame, you know, but which I think was a fun, if viewers have not yet seen the video that was recently released, there is a bit of that chasing fame motif there. I thought you used a wonderful space here in Chicago that lends itself to being captured on film. It is such a beautiful sight. So, you know, why don't you talk about capturing that moment and what was the concept behind that? And if you want to like ponder on it for a moment, grab some water real quick, because you've been talking for like 20-ish minutes. So if you're thirsty, feel free to hydrate. I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, I'll take a sip of water.
Yeah, let's talk about, you know, the fun stuff, the nitty gritty. You know, you've got this wonderful project that was recently released. I think it's a very fun title. You have some really fun titles throughout. But why don't you go ahead and introduce like what you were thinking as far as your title, as far as your concept, and then if you want to move into, you know, the video.
For sure. So the concept of the project, so before anything, I started recording songs, and there was like, you know, specifically like the Dry Eyes title came from like one of the lyrics from the Dry Eyes song, you know, and I had made a couple songs, and at the time I was just doing like singles, like I was just releasing singles like one after the other, like one a month kind of a thing, and I was going through some personal stuff, like breakup life stuff, work stuff, all this different whatnot, and I quit my job, just got out of breakup, all these different things, And I was like, man, I started working at recording these songs. I was like, man, I should, now that I have all this time, I started thinking about possibly should I do a project? Should I just drop the singles? I don't really know. And then I heard your interview with your mom about the garden. And I was just so like inspired by that, dude. I just felt like it was so interesting to me because even though your mom was talking about gardening, I felt like she was talking about almost like me and my music. Yeah, man, I just felt like super like related. Like I felt just everything she was saying, I was relating to, and I was like, man, I feel like this is just how I feel about my music. Like exactly the words like coming out of her mouth. I'm like, man, like it's this thing that brings me to like my youth, reminds me of like being a kid, keeps this childlike wonder like to my spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like this childlike curiosity. It also feels like brings me in tune with nature and the creative forces of the world and the universe. And so I was like, when I heard it, I loved it, and I was like, man, dude, I want to use this. I want to use this for something. And I had the song Dry Eyes, sitting there, and I was like, man, I have some space at the end of the beat. I'm gonna chop some of this. I'm gonna use this. I reached out. I was like, I'm gonna use this for this like ending here, and then had this dope like project song with this dope ending, and then I was like, man, maybe I should go ahead and put this in a project, put these together in a project. And then the next thing was like, well, if I put it in a project, maybe I should do like an interlude or something and try to do more with this soundbite, and that's where like I started shaping that intro, like this. I don't even know, man. This like multi-layered like thing where I was trying to bring like connect dots between what your mom was saying. This book, it's called As a Man Thinketh, and it talks about how like thoughts are seeds in the mind of men, and we are like what we think. You know what I'm saying? And seeds produce fruits of action, and that what you plant is what you reap. You know what I'm saying? And you have to tend to your garden because and this idea that again, your mind, that's your mind. So, and then it's like this connection of like being in the garden, your mom, your mind. And I was like, and then from there it just started going. I'm like, man, if I have an intro, I should have an interlude. And if I have an interlude, I should have an outro, you know what I'm saying? And it just kind of kept rolling from there, man. And it kind of became what it is. Yeah.
So as far as, that development, at what point did you go, we need a video?
Okay. So where I'm at with my like career, like as an artist and my pursuit and what I'm trying to do right now, I am trying my hardest to build campaigns and bigger, for lack of better words, build campaigns around these ideas, right? So I tell myself like, I didn't want to just drop a song. I want to drop a project. But if I drop a project, I don't want to just drop a project, right? Like I want to make sure people like if I had an amazing piece of art, and I keep using this analogy. If I was a painter and I painted this amazing painting, I wouldn't I'd want to frame it, right? Like I wouldn't just like bring it over here rolled up and say, hey Gotti, like take this corner, like watch this, like fold this out and put a fucking piece of like a coffee mug on one corner and fold it out and be like, look at this amazing art I made, right? Like I wouldn't do that. Like
you want it to look more presentable.
I wanted to be able to present it in the best light possible. I want to be able to frame it in a way that if you really think about it, like right, like if I was a painter and I had a painting, I could choose any frame, right? But the choosing of the frame is not just a simple thing. It could be you could choose something that is embezzled and grandiose in its nature, and that alone says more about the art sitting in it, and the idea of like how the creator sees it, right? I could make it something simple, I could make it something extravagant, I could make it something dark, I could, you know what I'm saying? Like literally is like this statement of the art without using words, you know? And so I feel like that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to build a frame around this art that basically says more about who I am, what I'm trying to say, and what this art means to me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
What do you want the audience to take away, if anything? If they take just one thing away from a listen?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of like hidden meaning like in there and layered, almost like not abstract but almost I would say, you know, I'm trying to create moments in there without like telling you like this is, you know, this is what I mean. So I feel like what I want people to get out of it is an experience. I hope that they can pull like, it pulls some kind of heartstrings, or it takes, and if it, maybe it's not the most like sentimental thing, maybe it takes you through like some kind of journey or experience. I want you to be able to kind of go deeper in your mind, in your spirit, and maybe connect with the things that I'm saying, experiencing these things, and go through, you know, like I feel like I try to shape the project in a way that there's ups and downs, and you know, I want you to experience that journey, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
In the video, you're being drowned by fame. Is that your current position or where you were at?
So
or are you just hoping for a baddie to waterboard you in the future? Is that more and more ladies come at me?
You know, maybe I feel like it's like this this metaphor for like the thing that you're chasing might not always be what it's all cracked up to be. You know what I'm saying? And you know, for me, it's not necessarily like I'm chasing fame. So I should also say, like, when I was making the song, I was trying to tell this story about my relationship with like this person that I was dating, and my music. So like this actual song, I'm saying like, I'm trying to take my time, but I can't because I love you. So I'm telling this girl, like, I'm trying to take my time, dude. I need you to just be chill. Like, if we're talking about the game, me and this bitch, we got history. Like, you gotta chill. You need to, you need to take it, like, but I can't because I'm also like so infatuated with you. And it's this hard decision between what do I choose, the woman of my dreams, or like success and art and creativity, or this partner that I'm actually just like completely like infatuated with. But when it came to the video, I wanted to step away from like the partner thing, and I wanted to go deeper into like personifying success. And it kind of went from just like success being this other woman thing that I'm pursuing in my life to like fame, not just like success, but like fame, money, these different things, you know what I'm saying? And trying to go deeper when telling the story of like pursuing these things, and making these like metaphors, you know? Not necessarily saying that's where I'm at, but I just felt like that's where the story wanted to go, you know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. There's a track I really like called Weird. There's a specific line, it's pretty great. That shit hit me really hard today, in my heart today. Now, that may be the nerdiest delivery of your line you've ever heard, but,
no,
you know,
that's great.
I think as one line, that hits the nature of the song. So what was the development of Weird? What inspired you here? And are you a weird guy?
I'm probably a weird guy, dude. Most people probably would say yes. But I'd argue that probably what makes me a good artist, you know what I'm saying? So Weird, you know, it wasn't not okay. So I should start by saying like this isn't no sad boy shit because basically I was trying to mag this chick, and it kept falling through. Plans kept falling through, and we made plans one last time. I was a little skeptical. Plans fell through again, and I was like, you know, dude, I'm over this. I'm done with this. And I just went to the studio, you know, or I just was like, I'm gonna spend time recording music, like whatever. Like I'd rather do this anyway. And even though, like, again, it's not no sad boy shit. Like I wasn't really too hurt by that, but a lot of that was like on my mind. You know, I was like in that headspace, like like rejection almost. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel like that's where like kind of the headspace was, and I also quit my job, dude. You know, I was at this point where I was so depressed, dude, and like fed up with my job, and I think like the layering of these two things, like being in this like kind of depressed like place, like where I'm like unhappy, like, and then this thing that sent me into the studio where like this is also on my mind. It's like it's kind of like the space that I was like living in when I was making that thing. Everything that I said, I felt in that. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I like that track a lot. You've had really great visualizers that went along with the tracks on YouTube. Let's talk about the artists that you had featured. So you've got a video that you worked with some artists. You've got these visualizers that are like paint inspired, actual like animated videos that I thought were pretty fun. So what was it like did these artists come to you? Did you go to them? You want to drop their names?
So yeah, for sure. Well, I'm gonna say first off, shout out WellesMaddingly, shout out 3 Story, shout out my buddy Tone, shout out my buddy Raph from Rize. These are all like amazing artists and that I've been working with, videographers, just creatives. Wells is a singer herself. She's a rapper, but she's she's way more talented than just that. She helped with like the directing and the producing of the music video. A lot of like when when we were in the moment, like she had so many ideas like to contribute to like the video and stuff. And these other people have just been helping me put these visions to life. You know, it's a process. A lot of back and forth planning, correlating, bouncing ideas, scratching ideas, and then obviously the execution, so like when you're there, things flow. But yeah, I probably would not be able to like bring these things to life if it wasn't for some of those people, if I'm being completely honest. At least for like the visual, promotional side of things. And then in terms of like the skits and the animations, I went out and I found those artists. These, I should, so I'm pretty sure I'm probably gonna say his name right. His name is Fiend Dante, if I'm not mistaken, or at least that's his name on social media. But he's a artist from, I want to say, either Philippines or Indonesia or somewhere out there. But basically, I was connected to this artist, and he's the person that made the cover art.
It's a great cover.
Yeah, I agree, dude. He did such a good job.
It's pretty trippy.
I love it, dude. And the more time I spend with it, the more I like it more and more. Like I'm like, yo, this is
It would make
raw.
a really cool like big poster to put up on like a wall.
I think like a shirt too. Like put that on a shirt would be sick.
Yeah.
But that's another guy I really gotta give my hat off to because that cover art I think has done a lot too in terms of promotion. I think people see it and they're interested. It sparks curiosity, and it does its job. Like cover art should. So. And then there are some other artists that I reached out to on Fiverr to help with the skits. I could get to their names, but I kind of forgot them. Sorry.
Hold everything up.
Yeah.
Point everything really.
Yeah,
make sure they're properly tagged.
But yeah, I basically found them on Fiverr, like the freelancing website, and I did some negotiating and threw them ideas and concepts, and I have them just kind of bring these things to life. Again, I just wanted to go farther, dude. I don't want to just, dude. You know how many times I've like made something and thrown it out into the ether of the internet, and like it just gets sucked into a void, and nobody listens, or what I'm realizing where I'm at now is like you have to go farther. You have to frame it. You have to, and not only frame it, but you have to like hold it on top of your head and out in the street and be like, I just made this. Look at it. You know what I'm saying? So
you have to have it in this day and age, just packaged and ready to go. I don't think it's necessarily different from how it used to be. It's just a slightly different packaging now. It's a digital rack now, but otherwise, I think a lot of artists think that art is just creation, and then distribution comes somewhere down the road. And actually, I think the disappointment of most artists is that you also still have to distribute and advertise and run the entire marketing campaign. And if you don't know how to file paperwork, you got to figure that out. And there's tax stuff.
Yeah. So there's a difference between doing this shit as a hobby and pursuing this as a career and trying to make this like being an independent artist. You have to wear all the hats, and you're absolutely right, dude. You cannot, like, the reality is, and this is to any entrepreneur, like, whether it's a creative or a small business, whatever you're doing, if you're listening to this and you're inspired to create and make something, don't think that just because you have the balls to go out there and make it, that people are going to come to you and spend the money. You have to, you can't open the doors to your store and expect people to come in. You actually have to go get people, grab them by the hand and say, hey, come into my store. One by one. Hey, come into my store.
I've done that.
You have to, bro. This is the reality of it. I think this is a skill that maybe our, like, a couple generations before us probably knew very well. You know what I'm saying? The idea of, like, going out there, meeting people, networking, getting into the scene, shaking hands, making the craft, you know what I'm saying? Promotion, building, like, this is something I think in the digital realm people have like lost the skill set.
You can't just knock on a door anymore. Sometimes there is no door to knock on. It's just an invisible company, and you have to somehow figure out how to get their attention. There's not Chicago, and maybe we can kind of like swirl it into this. Chicago used to be the kind of place where there was a music company, felt like on every other corner. And you could walk into Chesswork Records, right? You could walk into Fueled by Ramen over in Oak Park, but you can't do that necessarily anymore. So, in what ways do you think that there could be adjustments made so that artists have more opportunity? Where in the networking is Chicago thriving or failing?
I would say there's plenty of networking opportunity, but artist resources are at a minimum. Like, I know we're gonna talk about the grant and whatever, but for as I've lived in Chicago my whole life, I've never heard about that, and I've been making music since I was 16. Never heard about this in my life. How? That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's thousands of people that apply, know about this, and you just have to be in the know. But let's say you're a small artist that wants to put a show on locally. There's no resource out there to teach you how to do that. There's no, most of these people. There's no resource that says, hey, these are the 20 most popular venues that do DIY shows. Here are their numbers and their emails, and the person you want to get in contact with. Maybe those people don't want that, out.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if there is an artist resource like out there that that can provide this information, I think people would be way better off. Like if we could, if I had a place that I go to and say, hey, how do I find the name of top 10 videographers in the city, or you know, who are the people that hold the keys? Like, who do I need to know? Like, what are the names of the best studios in the city? You know, who are the engineers that I should be looking for? Like, I feel like we don't do a good job with that. The resources are there. The information is at a zero, though. You know what I'm saying? Of how to get that stuff, how to get your hands. You really, what I've found is like the game really comes down to like success is like, let's say mapped out, like I'm in a maze with the lights turned off, and I'm feeling around in the dark trying to find my way through it. That's the reality of like being a DIY independent artist.
Now, being a DIY artist, you are pretty fortunate to have received a grant.
Yes.
And this is at a time, like you said, when funding is very difficult to come by. I know just public access television, you know, something I don't know necessarily anybody necessarily of a certain age below 50 watches anymore, but
Yeah.
I was all about public access television. Get that little antenna, attach it to your TV, and you can get it, right? Pulled a whole bunch of shows off their network all of a sudden because there's no money, right?
Yeah.
What was that process like, having to like pitch yourself to be like, give me money, please? I am an artist. So how did you hear about it, and then what was that like?
First of all, I heard about it by chance. I just happened to be on Facebook at the right time, and literally, dude, I got so lucky here on the chinny chin chin kind of like opportunity where somebody I used to go to school with that I don't talk to at all anymore, not for any specific reason, I just, you know, like not really close to, they posted on Facebook, hey, the city of Chicago is giving up $6,000 for independent artists. Here's the website. And I was like, what? And I realized, I'm looking through the comments, I realized like no one's gonna apply to this. I was like, well, that's great. I'm like, no. I was like, I don't think anybody's gonna, like knows about this or is gonna apply to this. So I did it. When I seen the post, I only had 2 weeks before the deadline. So
It's a tough process in 2 weeks.
Bro,
It's a lot of creating your own paperwork.
it was insane. I worked on it for the 2 weeks. I literally think I finished it like 2 or 3 days before like I had to submit it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say this just because, again, I'm a fan of resources. If you're gonna apply, use ChatGPT, dude. I just do it. Go get the money, bro. Use the resources at your hands to go get the money, okay? I use ChatGPT. You know, I don't have any. I'm not like embarrassed to say so. You know, the reality is it's a giant process. It is very difficult, but you do have the resources at your hands. You can definitely do it, and the money's out there. They're like saying like, hey, just take it. You know, it's not easy though. You know, but here's the thing: if you have to believe in yourself in this whole process, whether it's music, the business, the grants, whatever. Like, you just gotta like, you know, one thing about that process, and I'm sure you probably understand this because you just applied for it. You know, if you need 2 years of prior like work to show them, like going through this process and realizing like all of the work that I have done up to that point was actually worth it. If I get this money, even though nothing has amounted to anything at this point in my life,
experience.
You know, if I could, if I have the experience and I could go get this money right now, all of it would have been worth it at this point. The last 10 years of my life, 15 years of my life, like, I know it's a small payoff, but that's just a small like check on the road to success, saying like, the city of Chicago says, you're right. You believe in yourselves, and we believe in you too. Here's the money. Like, holy cow, bro. Like, that's just like it kind of reinforces your belief in yourself, when you do these things. That process alone of not only making the case for why I deserve something, but making a budget, planning a release strategy. Literally, the first time I've ever been introduced to like a marketing campaign and saying like, what's your campaign behind this? What are you planning on doing to promote this? And then so that it was a very enlightening experience. It really made me understand and realize like, dang, bro, you've come a long way, and like this proves it, and I'm highly recommend that everybody that is active go and look into that. It's such a crazy resource, so it's insane.
Yeah, for anybody looking for resources, something that I highly recommend, and I'm very fortunate that as part of my academic career, I was able to move on to, a university experience at a couple different universities, and stop by your art department. Even if you're not a student per se, there are lots of events done by art departments where they just need people to get eyes in on the work, to show like we're worth the funding. I can fill a room even if it's for potential future students. There's lots of people who are very willing to help with grant writing. They know of grants. They have in their communication walls often postings of like, hey, grant opportunities coming up, here are the deadlines. So even if you're not the kind of person who thinks that like a university experience has a value other than like pay to play, the networking and resources that are there are amazing. It's centralized, it's organized, and they're happy to share, because guess what? If you don't get someone applying, you don't have someone to give this to, and that money goes away.
That's
so
interesting.
You gotta apply for it.
Yeah. I think you make a good point. You make a really good point. Aside from like the education, I think one of the, I mean, I didn't graduate from school, but I think looking from the outside looking in, I think one of the biggest pros to getting an education is the network and the resources that are available. You'll meet so many people that'll can help you in the future. That's what fraternities and sororities are. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, resources, it's a big deal. Do you have any local artists? I know you've mentioned a few that you want to shout out and say, look at these guys, get eyes on their projects.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Aside from the people I've mentioned now, definitely look into them. But musicians and rappers and art and singers in that sense. First off, WellesMaddingly, like I said, definitely check her out. She's an amazing artist. My buddy Walt from the future, he is absolutely amazing. He's one of the other artists that I really do look at, and I see as a contemporary, and I feel like he, when I talk about these things like the marketing and the business side, I feel like he's one of the other people that is in pursuit of this and understands a lot of these things, and I admire his passion and his pursuit and his skill set. His music is actually genuinely good. So it's sometimes rare to find that combo where you find somebody that has the skill set but also is into the business side of things. I also want to mention my buddies Casey, Amato, and Demi. They are building an artist collective called Agora. It's out in the south side in Pilsen. They do a lot more in the scene of hardcore and metal and punk, but they are an amazing group of artists. They're throwing shows all the time. They just donated $1,500 to some donations just over the weekend. So they're doing big things. They're really, really cool. Definitely looking into them. And then one last guy, and I'll leave it there. My buddy Nova. He is a rapper, artist as well. He throws shows in the city nonstop. He's constantly throwing shows. He alone, I feel like, is an amazing artist resource. So I would say Nova the King, definitely look into him as well. And Carmen Ciders, dude, if you ain't paying attention, spread the word, please.
No, I appreciate that shout out. I love it. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being our featured artist for this episode. For anybody listening, just want to thank everybody for their time. Appreciate everybody who gave opportunity to listen to the process here, and go listen to Marc's projects. He's got an entire back catalog available, so you have hours of listening if you really want to. But go ahead and start at the latest YouTube videos, get those numbers up, and then let's just slide on over to listening to Dry Eyed Outro. Gonna insert that right here.
Hey.
Dry eyes. Goodbye.
I don't know if I'll see you again, or is this the end? I don't know.
Dry eyes.
I don't know if I'll see you again, or is this the end? I don't know. I don't know if I'll see you again, or is this the end? I don't know.
Goodbye.